and salutations. I'm Jordan the IT guy, and today we are going to talk about strings. Again, only this time we're going to be talking about some of the other little things like methods and lengths and measuring them and trying to figure out how long they are so that we can do weird stuff with them. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Again, we're going to be working from our wonderful Windows 11 box with Visual Studio Code insiders on it, and today we're going to work through string methodology. So the very first thing we're going to do here is we're going to just go ahead and create a string. And in this case, I'm going to type something along the lines of, I love ramen. Now, this is a cool string. I in fact agree with it. It is in fact true. I do in fact love ramen. However, what if I want to measure this string? How would I measure this string? And in order to measure this string and know this, how would I even know that the opportunity to use something like, I don't know, $string.length would exist? Well, I can see it's in fact 12 characters long if I zoom in on this, right? That seems appropriate. It's 12 characters long. Now, how though did I know that this exists? And if I didn't know, how can I find out? Now, there's this wonderful commandlet in PowerShell that we're going to talk a lot about in the coming days, and that is get member. Okay, that's this guy right here. And if you want, you can go ahead and run a get help on this to get the idea of what all is available to it. But for us, what's important to note is it will help us identify properties as well as methods of an object. Now, you don't necessarily need to use get member. In fact, there is a feature that pretty much comes default on all PowerShell machines now, where if you actually run get module on a brand new fresh PowerShell session, you'll see this thing called PSReadline. It should be available, I believe, on everything 5.1 and newer, actually, at this point. And what that actually will do is it will allow you to do things like if you do string period, and then if you do, I believe it is control space, it will show you the exact same thing, all of the properties that are associated with that object. So in this case, I've got as well as the methods that are available to it. Now, what's important to know, though, is in the happenstance that you are not working in an area where get readline is available, or maybe you just want to get weird, right? You can also use the $string pipe to get member to get the exact same information in a list. Now, what's nice about this is we can actually see right off the bat stuff like the definition of those different things right here. However, for most instances and in most use cases, just using PSReadline and relying on it to get that information is perfectly fine. Just know that if you need it, get member's there. It's available to be your friend. So again, that is control space. Actually, for real quick here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and turn on screencast mode so you can see when I hit period and then I hit control space in order to reach that. Okay, and then from here I can do that length option and I can go ahead and hit enter to get the length of my string. Now, there's quite a few different options and things that are available to us in here. So let's take a look at some of these other ones that we're going to be talking about here. So I do control period and then again that control space. We can see all of these different ones. Now, some other things that might be interesting over here might be these things like these methods, which are called these to things. So there's to byte, to char, to string, to type. It's important to know that if you've been working within PowerShell a lot, in fact, you've probably accidentally used, accessed, or otherwise addressed these methods along the way. In fact, this happens when you're trying to add things together. So if you try to take something that's potentially a number or a string, but can be converted to either, it will use one of these methods to try and convert it appropriately. That's why earlier on when we were in the series, when we were doing a hard cast of something, it wasn't necessarily able to use those, but you could if you wanted to. So for example, let's just do this real quick here. If I was to say something like int32, and I was to say, actually, let's do it up here. We'll do it here. int32, okay? And we were to say number equals, let's do 2, okay? And if we were to run that, okay? Now, if we were to do something like $number, and we were to do period, control space, we can see down in here some different methods, which are kind of interesting, right? And notice those definitions are refreshing across the bottom there, the same as they would get them if you were to use get member, okay? So let's go ahead and let's try this. What happens if we do number to string? Enter. Okay, that's interesting, isn't it? So if we were to do something like obj equals, and then we were to do obj.getType, we would in fact see that obj now is a string, and is a string which contains the value of, numerical value of 2. Very interesting stuff. So some other kind of cool things going back beforehand to our length question here is that if we do something like string.length, right, which returns the number 12, well, what is that? If we were to do something like, let's just call this result equals string.length, because we want to know the length of the string. Now, if we look at the result dot get type, apologize for that, we'll notice that it's in 32. It's a number. And what's cool about that, and we're going to talk about it next time, is because of that, we can do math on it to calculate what length it should be, subtract things from it, and do various other things with a wonderful method called substring. I hope this was helpful for you and in some ways informative and not just me rambling for a whole bunch of minutes. If you like this content, again, just let me know in the description, shoot me a comment, whatever, let me know. And yeah, look forward to talking to you next time. Thanks for watching and have a wonderful day.